What's going on, guys, and welcome back once again. Happy Tuesday. We're almost to the midweek. We got more decks where we'll break down the common ratios, tech cards, the minimum cores played in topping lists, as well as my updated versions of those decks. We did do RA and Purple Steel. Both lists are included in this video. But for all these other decks, I went and grabbed some from Dreamborn. You can go do that, sort it out however you would like. So a shout out to all of these creators. And first and foremost, we're going to start out with none other than Harlan Sweet, who kind of popularized the Blue Steel Aggro deck last format and has really pushed it on. This was a deck that maybe saw a little bit of play, but he really truly put it on the map. And, well, it's here to stay. And I think that if I'm going to pick top 10 decks headed into set championships, I'm going to put this as my number 10 deck. Maybe it hasn't performed quite up there yet, and I am putting Blue Steel as a nutshell. I think I would not be surprised if we see a little bit of some Blue Steel wheel control type decks popping up into set championships. I think we're going to see it. We haven't seen it yet since the bans, but I do think after during set championships, we are going to see some. I will start a new tab on the spreadsheet link down below for the set championship season, just so we can see exactly what transpires moving forward. We have top 8s we're going to try to grab, unless it's like, it's hard because I don't want to take top 8 from a 8 or 16 person tournament, and that's no discredit to the players, but just how we do the spreadsheet, I'm going to stick to that for the tops in that season. Unfortunately, again, no discredit to the players, because you can have a insanely competitive top 6 or 16 player event, but just for the sake of how we always do the spreadsheets, I'm going to stick to the numbers that we do that with. So congratulations to everyone who doesn't make it to the spreadsheet but does get their card anyway. The card looks sick regardless of what place you take, and I'm not going to try and take that away from anyone. But yes, number 10, Blue Steel. And odds are the Blue Steel aggressive versions are going to be the ones that, oh my goodness, something in my eye, are going to see a little bit more success. And this is piggybacking off of cards like Alice, the Savvy Sailor, being able to give Ward and an extra lore to another character. Wendy Darling in there is a nice little tech card. You got the Gantu for closing things out. We're in a big steel meta right now, so Cogsworth with that resist comes in pretty clutch, especially backing up your Smee draw engine off of like your dock is going to be your main pivot there. But you still have things like Calhoun and Robin Hood to assert your board into your opponents and also get lore for it, in addition to being able to go on the draw instead. And then you also have a couple Baymaxes in there to gain that lore instantaneously just by playing it and removing some damage. McDuck Manor also is a house. If you're not ready for locations are big right now. You should have some type of strategy for locations. Number 9, I got Mufasa decks. This doesn't have to be Ruby Fasa. It can be Steel Fasa, Ruby Fasa, what have you. But we're going to take and show off Humble's list here. And these decks just really, Mufasa is the focal point, if you will, but sometimes players have said it feels like Mufasa is one of the worst cards in the deck. The problem is that, or not problem, but the idea is your Mufasa hitting other powerful cards and getting them out for essentially free, for cheaper. You can crash into your opponent's board. You take advantage of those characters that come in damaged and using your Julieta, your Rapunzel as your draw engines. You have a lot of toolbox here. Your Gaston letting you get to your heavy characters also a bit earlier. Your Hydra being able to do that damage to other characters. You have spot removal with Maleficent, Medusa, Lady Tremaine kind of there. Tremaine, obviously, they get to pick it. And then just other really aggressive cards like Piglet on 2. I mentioned the Mulan and Mother Gothels on 1 and 2, which come in damaged, which set up your draw plays and really just get this deck rolling. There's a lot it's got going for it, and I'm excited to see where Mufasa can go. But it is my number 9 deck heading into set championships. Number 8, we're starting to see some less discard versions of Purple Green popping up. And is that going to be a trend moving forward? I think that the discard version and the non-discard version, I think that they're both very similar in power level. I think discard has been slightly more popular, but the non-discard version is starting to see an uptick in play. You still play things like the Ursula, but you're not playing like Prince John, Lucifer, Hypnotize, Sudden Chill in those versions. You may still see something like a Bruno in there because it is effectively removal or slowing your opponent down. So sometimes you'll see that in both versions. Other than that, you know, the lists are pretty straightforward. You try and hit that Diablo line early, either which way you're playing it. You have Crab in there to boost your weaker characters to get insane trade value off of them. And then just using the powerful Amethyst cards like your Goat, your Genie, your Elsa in that mid game to try and push and put your opponent into that position where you just control the matchup. Moving on into number 7. This is going to be like a nutshell here as well. It's hyper aggro, whether it's Diggy Hole, the No Mine, Amber Steel aggressive versions, any other just Purple Steel hyper aggro, Amber Amethyst hyper aggro, the decks that are just dedicated, I want to win by turn 5. That's what I'm putting here. So any deck where you're trying to win by turn 5, Blue Steel, you could argue, is a very, very aggressive deck. But again, I wanted to kind of keep them on their own because they have a little bit more of a mid game than most of these decks will. And in addition, like I said, the Blue Steel control lists are kind of grouped into that 10 spot as well as the aggressive versions, although I do think the aggressive version is the better Blue Steel deck you can play. Here you have so many 1-drops that quest for 2. You got Lilos, Maleficents, Daisies. I really like seeing 10 total in this. I think 12 is too many. You have so many uninkable cards in these type of decks, and it's very difficult to fit them all in. I think putting 12 in your 1-drop spot is too many. I like 10 a lot. And then you got the draw package, those 12 1-drops. Coming back, you got your oh my goodness, I can't even read it right now. Your Honey Marin, I think it's that, right? Honey Marin, it's the Frozen 2 card. And when your opponent has an exerted card and you play it, you get lore. So it kind of acts like a Goat, a White Rose, a card like that, if you will. Piglet, obviously, as well. Trying to go for them Goat bounce plays. So we do have the Mim package in there. I've seen some players cutting that from these hyper-aggressive versions. You have Baloo and Pascal as cards that really threaten closing the game out. Your opponent has to find a way to deal with them. Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom is a scary card because in this deck, if you get to like 16, all of a sudden you just start dropping these cards that just give you lore and your opponent can't do anything about it. Or even the Madrigal card where you draw a card and get a lore. Like, there's so many ways this deck can just get a lore on their turn and you don't even get a chance to respond to it. The Honey Marin, the Madrigal, this is the family, something like that. It's really hard to read on the screen right now. Again, you draw a card, you get a lore. Pretty good. Gathering Knowledge and Wisdom, your Goats, lots of cards like that. Amethyst Chromacon as a little bit more draw engine. I don't like giving my opponent those cards and the Neverland as our location. So I'm not big on giving my opponents cards because if I'm in these style of decks, I want to win very quickly and I don't want my opponent to have the answer. So I don't want to give my opponent more answers. In addition to that, you want to win very quickly. So losing a turn to play the item, I'm not a big fan of. I think personally there's enough draw outside of that. Even if you want to play things like Genie or even Dolores Madrigal. I was going to say, I knew it was a Madrigal, where if they have an exerted card, 4 cost, quest for 2, you play or you draw a card, or even the Yzma, the Conniving Chemist, as another draw card later, where you can quest for 2 or draw 3 cards. Personally, I'm not big on missing a turn with characters and also giving my opponent extra cards in these types of strategies. It's not my cup of tea. Other players like to do it, so I'm not going to knock on it. Players do it and they see success with it. Just personally, I'm not a big Chromacon fan in these style of decks. And that brings us to number 6. So the best deck of the back half of our top 10. Steelsong. Maybe I have this deck too low, but at the end of the day, there's always one deck that's higher up that performs a little bit lower, and I think it's going to be Steelsong. And I don't think it's because the deck's not good. I think it's because it's not going to see a lot of representation overall. And if you don't have a lot of representation, it's very difficult to have a lot of tops. So they two kind of correlate together. I think that this is still a very strong deck, and it's actually one I'm considering playing for set championships. We'll see what ends up happening. But Steelsong is Steelsong. You have your powerful, you have your Zeuses, your strengths, whole new world to combat that discard, your Petes to stop those actions. You can be very aggressive with cards like Smee, Lawrence. We've seen Daisy played in here on 1. We've seen Piglet in these lists as well. There's a lot you got going for it. You could even opt to play stuff like Grab Your Swords for those just blanket 2 damage, like discard type matchups. There's a lot going for it that you can do. Bolt is another great addition to this deck. There's This is a less standard version. That's why I wanted to show it. I saw the list. I'm like, you know what? We're going to throw that one up on the screen. It was just played in a near 100-person event, and they took it to top 16. So B squared 24. Shout outs to you, Forbidden Mountain. Thank you for putting the list up on Dreamborn once again. But yeah, Steelsong is my number 6 deck heading into set championships. Number 5, the big bad guy in the room. The deck nobody wants to play, and the deck no one wants to play against. It's not fun to play. It's not fun to play against. But at the end of the day, if you get your playmat and your card, I don't think you really care if people had fun going against you or not, right? So this is kind of an updated version on how we're seeing the green steel discard deck going. I think it's by far the best discard deck. You got your Morph in there on 2 as well as your Ursula. These are kind of your turn 2 options usually consist of Morph, Ursula, or Shifting Diablo, or a multitude of that. Like you can shift Diablo, play Cove, move to Cove. That's one line to kind of protect you from sudden chills, babooms, those blanket 2 damage effects. And it works really nicely. Otherwise, you can do things like play an Ursula, see their hand, hit a song out, and then you can be like, okay, I'm going to now shift my Diablo, and then I'm going to sing a sudden chill with my Diablo. I'm going to hit another card, or you can sing a Storm and get rid of the card on their board and just establish a big early dominance on that board state. Your Diablo and your Prince Johns as your big draw engines, but you do have the Sad Beast in there too. We got Pete's. Medusa's helping with that board control aspect. The Big Pete is actually a crazy, crazy card. There's a reason he's gone up in price. It's like a $20 cold foil, by the way. If you got those hiding away somewhere, you might want to move them. Iago and Pete are 2 cards to not sleep on. If you're not using them, I would sell them now, personally. Again, then we got all of our song lineup. That's pretty standard, has been for the most part. Pluto in there is a really nice bodyguard option. I like that. What would be my number 4 deck then moving forward? I think, by the way, that discards the deck that's going to slightly overperform where it's at in the chart right now. I think that this is the deck to truly watch out for. I think a lot of people are going to hop onto it and do really well with it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this even move up higher into the list, but I'm going to put it at number 5. Number 4, Red Blue. Maybe this is too low. Maybe it is. I almost put it at number 2. Like, you know what? I don't want to reach on that. I'm going to put it at 4. Right now, it's I think 5th for most tops, but I'm going to move it up a little bit. I think it's going to perform a little bit more. And these are lists very similar to what DKP had played and initially done with the half sharks and the actions and the mana control as opposed to the item lists. So these decks were less affected by the Hiram ban, but they still were hit. But at the end of the day, you have Develop, you have Sail, you have your oh my goodness, why can't I think of it? The Knowledge card, the 2, you look at 5, complete brain fart right now. But you also have your Grammatala, you also have your How Far I'll Go. There's a lot of tutoring cards here where you get to look at 2 to 5 cards and put one in your hand, or put one in your hand, one in your inkwell. You got your Popsicles that you can even use your new crabs with to get them back. You have the utility of Maui's Fish Hook to be able to get evasive, or get the extra strength to take down your opponent's cards as well. There's a lot going for this deck, and I think that it's in a great spot. Big Sisu starting to see a little bit more play. I said that initially, and a lot of people said, no one's going to play Big Sisu in these decks. It's going to be Half Shark or Bust. And not only are we seeing Sisu played, but you're also seeing Hades played. So if you're going against this deck, keep an eye out for that. In addition, I will say a few things here. If you're going against this deck, keep in mind the way the deck has transitioned. It's very common to see 2+ Hades in the deck. And where last format or pre-ban list, it was very common for like 2B preps. A lot of these decks are playing 4B prep now. So once they use 2B preps or you discard a B prep, keep an eye out, because these decks are typically playing more copies of B prep now. And part of that has to do with the Hiram engines gone, right? So the chances of drawing into it are lower, so they play more of it. They want to be able to tutor into it. So that's part of why we're starting to see those decks pop up a little bit more and play those ratios. Number 3. This was one that, if you want the full breakdown on it, I did do the deck and the video. Spreadsheet also has the tab for it. Purple Steel, I think it can be very aggressive and go under decks, and I think that it can have a solid mid game. And just overall, I don't think it necessarily has a terrible matchup in the meta right now. I think that it's either good or neutral into pretty much every deck, and it's very consistent and it's very versatile, and that's why I think that it's going to be the third best deck right now. If not a little bit more, I just think it's going to slightly drop. Right now it's tied for first, so I think it's going to take a slight dip, but it's still a very, very strong contender for being one of the best decks of the format. Number 2, Blurple, another deck that I'm really considering playing. I think right now it's between Steelsong, Green Purple, Purple Steel, and Blurple. Those are the 4 decks I'm probably debating on most between taking. I like where Blurple's at a lot right now. We've seen Elsa come right out of these decks. Hades going up to 4. It makes sense. You want to deal with the half sharks. You want to deal with so many characters. Get rid of them right away. Seeing things like Iago being played as well. Iago just being a very, very powerful card. I do think Crab should be in the deck. This list is not playing it, but I do think Crab should be in the deck personally. Finders Keepers, just another draw engine for the deck. Since they're taking out the 1-drop cards, they're playing the Popsicles and the Finders Keepers as a draw engine instead of the Brooms, Diablos, stuff like that. And without those 1-drops, that's part of why Crab isn't in here, I would assume, playing the higher strength, or the higher willpower characters, and then also maxing out on the Bell to being able to effectively move damage a lot more to your opponent. Very nice strategy. The Gaston in there to tutor cards, being able to look top 3 and get one into your hand. I really like the consistency and overall power of this deck. People say it lacks that removal, which isn't necessarily untrue. You can challenge into decks, you can move the damage, Hades, let it go, but it does truly lack some removal-esque aspect to it, but that's just how the game goes, right? Like, there's no deck that has absolutely everything, but if there's a deck that's pretty close, it's number 1, Ruby Amethyst, old, reliable. Why does it feel like this deck is always just good? We're also seeing it having play with Iago sometimes, or Maui Half Shark sometimes. Having people tell me that you don't play Pan without the Maui Half Shark, and that's just simply not true. The tops are proving that. While lots of players playing Pan do play Iago or Half Shark because they then get Rush because they're evasive and they come in, and I completely agree. That is a fantastic aspect about it. So if you have the space and you want to play Iago, you want to play Maui Half Shark, they do pair up with your Peter Pan incredibly well, so I wouldn't sleep on that. That's definitely an interaction you're going to want to at least test. But overall, you still have things like Finders Keepers, Genie, Rabbits, the 1-drop packages. Like, you have a lot of consistency in draw cards. Library still very strong in this deck. Friends on the Other Side, another consistency card. Essentially, these decks have become very toolboxy, but they're just insanely consistent. And in my version of it, it's pretty much the Amethyst engine, and then you just put in some removal tools from Ruby. Like I said, if you want to add in a Half Shark, personally, I would add in a couple more actions. We're at 9. Maybe a couple Pirate's Life or so. I'm not opposed to Half Shark. I'd probably go with Iago before Half Shark in my build particularly. But having tested it a bunch, I was very happy with this list overall. But that's it for my top 10. Another quick rundown. We had Ruby Amethyst number 1, Blurple at number 2, Purple Steel 3, then Red Blue 4, the mana control, if you will. You have the Green Steel discard, Steelsong, Hyper Aggro type strategies, Green Purple discard kind of grouped in there, Mufasa decks, and also those Blue Steel decks. Maybe there's not a lot of surprise to that, but maybe there is, and just showing some examples of these decks so you guys can better prepare and get ready for your events. Best of luck to everybody competing this weekend and the following weekends. We will always track the topping information. Again, feel free to click that link down below, follow that spreadsheet, and while you're going down there, hit subscribe, hit like, leave a comment. All that stuff helps out a lot. Thank you guys for watching, and take care.